So then Judge Waring swung around to Thurgood Marshall and said, Mr. Marshall, I wasn't being rude to you, but you see, I knew you knew the answer. I wanted to find out how long has the Charleston School Board known that other school districts were paying black and white teachers the same pay. He said, this is a simple case, and we're not going to waste the court's time. Mr. Marshall, how much time you want to give them to start paying equal teacher pay? Thurgood Marshall stood there with his mouth wide open, did not knowing what to say. He said, Your Honor, give me a few days, let me meet with my legal staff. He said, all right, have an order on my desk in 3 days. And hit his gavel. Court dismissed. It took 15 minutes for South Carolina to win its first civil rights case in the state. That was Thurgood Marshall's first case. And then there were a series of other cases in the 40s. After the school teacher pay case, the next one was the law school at South Carolina, at the University of South Carolina. John Wrighton, old veteran of World War II, came home, Geechee boy from Charleston, wanted to go to law school. The university would not allow him to come in. So he sued, again, in Judge Waring's court. Judge Waring said to both sides, y'all work this out. If you can't work it out, I'm going to work it out. They put on the case. Judge Waring said to the University of South Carolina lawyers, you've got three options, in effect, he said. You've got three options. Either you let him in the University of South Carolina, or you build him a law school at South Carolina State University, which is the historical black school in Orangeburg, or if you don't do one or two, I'm going to close the law school at the University of South Carolina. That was July 1947. September 1947, a law school was up and running at South Carolina State College in Orangeburg. 2 months. It wasn't much of a law school. It was housed in the library, a corner of the library. Thurgood Marshall called it $1.50 law school. But from that law school, some legal giants in this state came out of there. Matthew J. Perry, who became a federal district court judge. The courthouse in Columbia, the federal courthouse, is named for him, Matthew J. Perry. Ernest A. Finney became the first Chief Justice of the South Carolina Supreme Court, came out of that little law school. Jasper Curitan, one of Judge Few's contemporaries, started at the law school, but when they closed it, he finished at the University of South Carolina. Other judges, black judges in South Carolina, came out of that little law school. It lasted for 19 years, from 1947 to 1966. And it shut down then because they had more professors than they had students. Economically, it just wasn't feasible to do it. But that was one of Waring's cases also. Judge Waring's next case was the Briggs case, which Judge Few will talk about later, or either when we get to Liberty Hill. That was his last case. And it was an interesting case, and I'll leave that for Judge Few to talk to you about. After the Briggs case, Judge Waring had to leave South Carolina. The Klan was riding by his house throwing tomatoes and eggs, and young boys would harass his wife when she was shopping. So he left South Carolina and went to New York and spent the rest of his days there handling cases. Now Waring, being a federal judge, you know, you're appointed for life. And he continued in New York until he died. When he died in 1968, they brought the body back to Charleston. Only a dozen whites showed up for the graveside service. His own nephew, who's the editor of the News and Courier in Charleston, did not come to his uncle's funeral. But 200 of us blacks did attend the service. We had a memorial, and then we motorcaded up Meeting Street to Magnolia Cemetery for the last rites for Judge Waring. He was one person who was not corrupted by his society. Now, there were a couple other things about Judge Waring, and then I'll move on. Why did he do all of this? Why did he risk this? He had everything going for himself. He made the mistake of, I won't say mistake, but he divorced his first wife. And he had to go to Florida to do it. Because in those days in South Carolina, there were no divorce laws. Once you got married here, you were married forever. And I think it was, what, late 50s, Judge Hugh, when they finally put the divorce law into place in South Carolina. Well, he divorced her and married a Yankee, Connecticut woman, twice divorced. Well, that turned all of old society Charleston against him. So he got back at him, and he used his pen and the bench to do it. They called him crazy and all of that, but he did what he did, and we're proud of it. Now, while he was in New York, he teamed up with J. Delane, which you'll hear more about, Reverend J. Delane. And Reverend Delane founded an AME church in Buffalo, New York. And guess what the name of the church is? Delane Waring AME Church in Buffalo, New York. So, that's my take on what happened during the 40s. Thurgood Marshall spent 10 years in South Carolina between 44 and 54 and made a home here, so to speak. One other piece, and then I'll entertain questions. I have to correct my friends and relatives and a lot of other people when they say Thurgood Marshall argued Brown versus the Board of Education. Thurgood Marshall did not argue Brown versus the Board of Education. He argued Briggs versus Elliott before the U.S. Supreme Court. He stayed with that case all the way. Robert Carter and Jack Greenberg argued the Brown case from Kansas. So, that's my take on things up to now. I'll take some questions.